There's something that's emerging right now that we need to talk about. And yes, it's quite shocking. The thing is AGI. There's only one rule to remember. Don't panic. Let's go down this rabbit hole and see how far it goes. By now, you've probably seen OpenAI's latest release, Sora, the text-to-video AI generation platform. It's very cool. A lot of people are very impressed with the lifelike images that it can produce. But a lot of people are missing what this thing is, what it represents. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. When Sam Altman started talking about AGI, he was mocked. People said it wasn't serious to talk about building AGI. After they released ChatGPT, people no longer mocked him.
We have been a misunderstood and badly mocked org for a long time. Like when we started, we announced the org at the end of 2015. I remember at the time, a eminent AI scientist at a large industrial AI lab was DMing individual reporters being like, these people aren't very good and it's ridiculous to talk about AGI and I can't believe you're giving them time of day. And it's that was the level of pettiness and rancor in the field at a new group of people saying we're going to try to build AGI.
So OpenAI and DeepMind was a small collection of folks who were brave enough to talk about AGI in the face of mockery.
We don't get mocked as much now.
Don't get mocked as much now.
More people believe that, yeah, maybe we'll see AGI in the upcoming decades. But here's the thing. Everyone, including the people that study this stuff, keeps getting thrown by the exponential growth, by the compounding. We're beginning to hit the second half of the chessboard. And things are about to get a little bit nutty. Let's dive in. There's this expression, the second half of the chessboard. Now, the story about the second half of the chessboard, that the inventor of chess presented his brilliant creation to a grateful Indian king. The king asked what was the desired reward. The inventor of chess asked for something very simple, for a grain of rice to be placed on the first square, then double that amount on the second square, and so until every square was covered. So basically it goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, etc., doubling each and every single time. Now, this might not seem like a lot. It's just a few grains of rice. But where this exponential growth, where this compounding gets really hairy, is in the second half of the chessboard. It's 1,000 times how much rice is produced in the world today in modern times. But the point is, it was way above anything that the king could have paid. The point of all this is that AI progress is entering the second half of the chessboard. And it gets really hard to predict what that looks like and how it will unfold. A lot of people are asking, when will AGI be here? I don't like that question. Here's why. This was from the blog Wait, But Why from 2015, so a while ago. And it had this excellent demonstration of how AI would look like when it arrived. So just pretend that sign says AGI. And this is the AGI train station, right? And here are everybody standing around wondering, when will the AGI train get here? Will it be here in 7 months or 12 months or 5 years? Because we're noticing some signs that it's coming. Hey, look, AGI is arriving, right? We're seeing it off in the distance yonder. So when is it going to pull into the station so that we can greet it and see what it looks like? Well, here's the thing. It's coming fast. And now it's gone. Did you miss it? Here's another chart that kind of shows you how it's going to happen. So this is the highest intelligence on Earth, right? I'm assuming this is from the beginning of time. So slowly living forms are getting smarter. And here's the tripwire. This is where we create something like self-improving AI and whoosh, it's a vertical line. So Tim Urban was the person that runs this blog, Wait But Why. I believe he has a book out now. Apparently Elon Musk is a big fan of this blog. He's tweeted about it in the past. And so keep in mind, so this blog post is from 2015, I believe, right around the time that OpenAI was just opening its doors and being mocked for working on AGI, building AGI. And so back then, the median expert prediction for AGI was 2040. And ASI, Artificial Superintelligence, was 2060. Here's Kathy Wood of ARK Invest, along with some of her analysts that work on this stuff. This is what they've predicted. So here's the chart of when experts believe we will achieve general artificial intelligence, and how that changed. In 2019, We thought it was 50 years away. A year later, 34 years away. A year later, 18 years away. A year later, we thought it was 8 years away. And so based on this, their forecast was that, by 2030, about 6 years from now, we're going to have AGI. However, progress was so much faster that there was a forecast error. And assuming that it continues in this way, we're going to have AGI by 2026, 2 years from now. And all the other papers that we covered here kind of say the same thing. All of the experts keep getting surprised by the rapid acceleration of AI. So 7 years ago, Sam Altman was mocked for saying they're building AGI. Now it's not crazy to say that it's going to be here soon. When exactly? Well, it doesn't matter. This is us, and in the next moment, it'll pass whatever metric we choose to measure AGI by. Before the end of the video, I'll even show you why there's a chance that it has already been achieved. It just hasn't been distributed. In my previous video, we went over something that Dr. Jim Fan, the senior research scientist at NVIDIA, what he said. The point was that this video generation model, it's learning physics. Its ability to simulate physics is an emergent property. As we put in more data and we scale up the resources, these abilities emerge. They start existing. More data and more compute translates into these digital brains being able to sort of implicitly acquire new skills. They learn to do stuff that we don't teach it. And whenever I post a video talking about this, there's always a vocal minority in the comment section yelling that this can't possibly be true, and we're just imagining things, none of this is happening, etc. But it is rapidly becoming the view that more and more people have. OpenAI is talking about it more openly. They're not talking about Sora as a little video generator or a picture generator. They're talking about it as a world simulator. They're saying this is a promising path towards building general purpose simulators of the physical world. Sora serves as a foundation for models that can understand and simulate the real world, a capability we believe will be an important milestone for achieving AGI. Now let's pivot to OpenAI for just a second here. How is OpenAI building AGI? Is ChatGPT the thing that will become AGI? Is Sora the thing that will become AGI? Well, not quite. Think of AGI and eventually ASI, the super intelligent form of AGI, as a collection of pieces, each with its own sort of power and abilities, but when put together, become AGI, the big thing. So what are those pieces? Well, we now know Sora, the world simulator. We know ChatGPT, the fastest growing app of all time, that can now see, hear, and speak, and is in and of itself a powerful form of AI. What are the other pieces? Well, one of them is agents. Sam Altman kind of hinted at this in the developer conference in November. Actually, I don't know if he was hinting at that. It was kind of vague, but I think myself and a lot of other people assumed that's what he was talking about, autonomous AI agents. But these new leaks kind of confirmed that we were all kind of right in assuming that, because it seems like OpenAI is rapidly moving towards developing autonomous AI agents. So Sam Altman has privately called the next iteration of ChatGPT a super smart personal assistant for work. That agent will take over people's computers and basically do a lot of the tasks for them. It will be like an operating system that does things for you. So instead of clicking on things or typing something in, you will communicate with the agent in, whatever form that takes, whether voice or typing, and it will then go and do the things that you request it to do. And it'll be able to do it autonomously. We've tested a few of these AI agents on this channel. You give it some high-level task, it thinks about it, breaks it up into subtasks, and then starts carrying those out. And OpenAI isn't the only one. Google CEO Sundar Pichai said the latest technology allows us to act more like an agent over time. There are other companies that are doing the same thing. The Rabbit R1 device is doing something similar. There's Multion, which we've covered here. There's Open Interpreter. There's Self-Operating Computer, I believe it's called. There's a bunch of them that are trying to do this. All right, so we have ChatGPT, we have Sora, we have agents. What else is there? Well, OpenAI develops a web search product in challenge to Google. So we're not sure if that search product is separate from ChatGPT or part of ChatGPT. So let's say search is the left leg of the forbidden one, or AGI, What else is there? Well, the massive amount of chips, of AI chips, of compute of GPUs or TPUs or whatever other processors that we need to train these AI models and run inference. Inference meaning getting the outputs, the predictions that we're looking for. So Altman has already had a lot of interest from Middle East funds, as well as a lot of the Chinese money that flowed into it. The US government, one of the agencies did, I believe, canceled and reversed one of the deals that they've had for chips made by Rain Neuromorphic. That was in San Francisco. But it looks like Sam Altman is not giving up. So now he's asking the Biden administration for approval. So Sam Altman it said that he's looking for $7 trillion funding to build the infrastructure to produce these chips that are needed. So that's $7 trillion in funding. Actually, scratch that. It's now 8. But the point is we need a lot of money to build these factories to produce the required amount of chips that will be able to power everything that we want AGI to do. Now, once we have all the pieces in place, once we have the GPT and the Sora and the DALL-E and the search and the autonomous agents and all the chips, and apparently there's also a music/sound generation thing that's not released yet, but that's coming soon. I actually got early access to this Sora Plus audio model, and here's some early results. So this is 2 golden retrievers podcasting on top of a mountain. Here's what that sounds like. So I gotta say, not bad. I expect them to start climbing the iTunes podcasting rankings very rapidly. But the point that I'm trying to make is this thing that we think of as AGI is likely going to be a multi-part thing, each with its own effects, each with its own strengths, that when combined becomes this thing that is now able to do most of human jobs. For example, coding assistants are already helping coders work faster, replacing some of the work they have to do. Google quietly launches internal AI model named Goose to help employees write code faster, leaked documents show. So models like GPT will help coding. If you've played around with Code Interpreter, aka Advanced Data Analytics, a lot of that is going to really help with, well, data analytics. A lot of things that we used to have analysts for can now be done with a few sentences. They can go through Excel sheets, organize it how you want to, display various charts, etc. A lot of the coding jobs, a lot of the data analysis jobs, a lot of the writing jobs, like that part replaces a lot of the people that's doing that sort of work. Next, Sora. Sora produces videos and images, etc. So think about who does that displace? What kind of skills and people and work environments does that displace? So take a look at something like this. So let's say you wanted to shoot something in Tokyo. What do? Well, you had to fly over there or hire somebody on location to shoot. You would need the actors, the editors, the photographers/camera operators. But not only that, because you also need all the people that produce the equipment, the people that produce the cameras, the lighting equipment, the microphones, the storage disks. For things like this, you needed to hire these special effects creators for movies so they can help you produce visually stunning effects like this. If you wanted to do something like this, that's macro photography. This is not really macro photography. There's another better example where it's like zoomed in on someone's eye. You need special lenses for that, special glass that has to be made to create those lenses. You need people to be able to shoot that kind of detail, that macro photography. If we're able to just generate images that are similar to that, all those jobs are affected. The next part is agents, and agents are going to be everything that you need that's going to be kind of like your assistants. Anything you need them to answer emails or schedule appointments, do your research online for you, complete whatever task you need with Excel, just anything where you need stuff actually done in the digital world, right? And potentially, at some point also over the phone. So OpenAI has their Whisper model. That's another part of this. So when you talk to it, it's able to transcribe what you're saying to words. So then GPT-4 can then understand what you're saying. So if you wanted your agent to call a restaurant and, for example, make a reservation for you, that would be something like an agent plus GPT, right? ChatGPT plus something like Whisper that's able to transcribe it. And then right now, we'd have to use 11 labs to make the voice, right? To make it sound like a human being is saying. So as ChatGPT outputs the text, it gets transcribed into an AI voice. But again, as I've mentioned before, it sounds like OpenAI has that cooking behind the scenes, that voice model, that audio model. The preview that I gave you, that was just me breathing into a microphone. I hope that comes across okay. And of course, the chips, the GPUs that are needed, that's like the last piece. I don't even know if that's necessarily like, you would think of that as a piece of AGI, or does that just increase the scale? But the point is this. Here's how stuff scales when we increase the compute. From just nonsense, if we increase it 4x, it's better. I mean, that's looking pretty good, to really lifelike when you bump it up even further. Just giving it more processing power, more chips, more compute. That by itself scales up incredibly effective. So I guess computer chips, you could think of it as a part of it, or more just like the thing that helps it scale, depending on how you want to think about this. But the point is, when you have all these little pieces on the board together, the thing that emerges, the thing that starts slowly floating through the portal, well, that's AGI. That's the thing that will be able to think, to learn, to do, to produce images and voices and understand all the images and videos that you give it, understand what you mean when you say things. So when is that coming? When are we going to have that? Well, this is Jimmy Apples. We've mentioned him a few times on this channel before. And as I've said before, take everything here with a grain of salt. Jimmy Apples is what appears to be an OpenAI insider, somebody that knows quite a bit about what's happening at OpenAI, who leaks this information in cryptic tweets every once in a while. So again, I'm not endorsing anything. I'm not saying that this is true. In fact, if at some point this person is just completely wrong about something too, or we completely can dismiss whatever he predicts, I feel like my job would get a little bit easier. But here's the problem. He is eerily accurate, which makes it very difficult to just completely dismiss everything that he's saying. On this channel, we're going to look at everything. We're going to look at the scientific papers, the data, and we're also going to look at the crazies, at the conspiracy theorists. This is going to be a full spectrum AI channel. So let's get started. Here's Yamidiot, I'm going to say. And they're saying, after Sora, it became very difficult for me not to connect the dots, and coming to the astounding conclusion that OpenAI already has AGI. One dot is obviously the existence of Apple and his leaks. Apple being Jimmy Apples, and his leaks. I'm curious if this is a typo or a clever play on words, because these are leaks, right? But whatever, Apple and his leaks. So normal people think Apple is just a legendary leaker, but in my opinion, he's a legendary prophet, revealing the divine plans of God Emperor that is Sam Altman. Apple scores very well. March 14th GPT-4 drop, score, he predicted that. Gobi and Arrakis names, score, he predicted that. That was confirmed by the information, I believe. Whatever Arrakis was, Arrakis is the alternate name for the planet in Dune, the science fiction novel Dune that is now a movie on Netflix. I actually never read Dune, surprisingly. It's one of the classic sci-fi books. I just recently got it and am going through it. Then they continue, samifying score. This was the thing for me that truly solidified that what this guy was saying is likely has some grip on reality. So this was October 24th, 2023, Jimmy Apples posts. There's been a vibe change at OpenAI, and we risk losing some key ride-or-die OpenAI employees. So keep that in mind, October 24th, right? So that's the post on October 25th. But Sam Altman was fired on November 17th, almost a month later. And Sam Altman didn't know about the firing. Normal employees did not know about the firing. Even Mir Murati didn't know about the firing until the day before the firing. I believe the board plus Ilya Sutskever approached Mir the day before. I don't recall if it was the day before or just a few hours before, but the point of it, she was the only one outside of the small group of the board members that knew about it with a bit of an advanced notice because she had to step in as interim CEO. So Jimmy Apples knew about the vibe change resulting in Sam's firing on October 25th. So it looks like Jimmy Apples leaked that there was a big fat release on February 15th. He's saying he released it from an alternative account, kind of a, again, this is why I say take everything here with a grain of salt, because who knows what is happening. But I'll cut to the chase. Jimmy Apples is saying that OpenAI has achieved AGI internally. It will be released in 2025, in 1 year. Says he's looking for a nice farm to relax on. And what he wants to see from big labs is working on how to solve future job loss. Jimmy reposted this. I've been building autonomous agents for the last 8 months. Can confidently say that AGI is so much closer than anyone expects. All you need is a cheap GPT-5 that can run locally. Wouldn't surprise me if OpenAI has already built this internally. It's just not economically viable. He's also reposting some papers, some of which we've covered here on the channel, that deal with agents, autonomous agents. So for example, Tencent has published multiple papers on autonomous AI agent. One of them is multimodal agents as smartphone users. There is a lot of research about autonomous agents coming out of China. A lot. Notice a lot of these things that he's hinting at, this was before we had confirmations of OpenAI shifting their AI progress to kind of going after autonomous agents. All right, so we've covered it in a different video. Ben House, an OpenAI employee that's working on what we believe to be these autonomous agents, said he's building what he thinks could be an industry-defining 0-to-1 product that leverages the latest and greatest from our upcoming models. And Peter Wellender, OpenAI Vice President of Product, said that this product that Ben is working on will change everything. So again, as much as I would love to dismiss these anonymous leaks, whenever I look back over this stuff, his stuff is like a month to 2 months leading whatever we see confirmation of. Here's December 8th, 2023. Open source MOE coming soon. MOE is mixture of experts. This is what we believe OpenAI used with great effect to run GPT-4. That's one of the reasons why it was so good. Here he's probably talking about Mistral or Mixtral, the French open source model that is now competing with, that's doing really well on a lot of tasks, similar to GPT-4. I don't remember the exact rankings, but it's definitely one of the very strong open source models that we know uses a mixture of experts. Also, the other big thing that completely got overshadowed by Sora's release was Gemini 1.5. You probably completely ignored this because after like a few hours of this announcement, OpenAI drops Sora. So this was completely overshadowed, but it's much bigger than it appears. Gemini 1.5 is a lot better than Gemini 1.0. The mid-size model is as good as the Ultra, the previous Google Gemini's large model. It's faster, cheaper to train, it's better. Why? Well, one of the reasons is it's with a new mixture of experts, MOE, architecture. Now, you may be saying, yeah, it just seems like he's getting kind of lucky at his predictions and he might not actually know what's happening. Well, here's November 29th, 2023. So what, about 3 months ago? So he's saying OpenAI made the decision to do video generation back in March of this year, so in 2023. Will we see this next year, as in right now? Yes, we did. Reminder that they are still sitting on a new jukebox model. That's that sound jukebox music thing that I gave you a preview of earlier. And he's saying DeepMind, Runway, Pika, and open source are going to force their hand. Now, keep in mind that most OpenAI employees did not know about the video generation model. They were briefed about it shortly before the release. I read a lot about AI and all the stuff people are talking about. I can tell you no one was talking about a video generation model by OpenAI in 2023. And here in November 2023, he's talking about a 4-peat. 4-peat. We'll come back to that in just a second. So OpenAI was sitting on Sora for almost a year. GPT-4 finished training in July 2022, which, by the way, there's some papers out of Microsoft where you see some of the screenshots on those papers where they're testing GPT-4. And that was many months before it was released to the general public. So it was finished training and it was already being tested by some sort of red teamers, people that were testing it for safety, as well as other organizations that are sort of close to OpenAI. It was, way before we got our hands on it. And he's saying there's also Gobi, Arrakis, QStar, 4-peat, Orion, sounding like far more advanced than GPT-4. So we've covered some of these. So we've covered QStar. We've covered pretty much all of these. The 4-peat, I believe what he's referring to is Sam Altman saying that 4 times now it has happened that he was in the room when sort of the frontier of our ignorance was pushed back and sort of our knowledge of the world was pushed forward. So was that the Q star that was leaked? I have no idea. Was it a separate project? We don't know. Remember when GPT-4 dropped, they did a formal demo day. It was kind of a big deal. When Sora released, they did nothing, as if it was nothing so special. I think Sam Altman was online on Twitter for about, I don't know, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, making random videos for people that would prompt him to do it. So he would just kind of like run through Sora and put it out there. And then he was like, and now I got to go. Bye. So they dropped this thing and they were like, this is nothing. This is not a big deal. They dropped the thing so close to AGI and called it nothing. They're working on ASI alignment, not AGI alignment. So this begs the question, what is AGI? Like, what even is that? Well, here's Google's take on it. This is Google's levels of AGI. So here's kind of like the level of AGI, and here's where we have narrow AGI. So for example, we have narrow AI that is superhuman, means that it outperforms 100% of humans on these narrow tasks, right? Of course, if you think about something like AlphaFold, AlphaGo, so this narrow AI that just plays chess is superhuman level AI, narrow AI. It will beat any human at chess. So that's narrow tasks. And the general sort of side of that is, anything, basically most tasks. So like a level 0 AI was narrow was calculator. Level 1 is emerging. And this is where they put, ChatGPT, GPT-4, Bard, Llama 2, Gemini, right? It's sort of level 1 emerging AGI. So it's equal to or somewhat better than an unskilled human. And then level 2 is competent. This is where it's at least 50th percentile of skilled adults. And here they give examples of competent narrow AI, but competent AGI has not yet been achieved, where it beats, 90% of skilled adults. It's in the 90th percentile. And for narrow AI, here they put things like Imagen, DALL-E 3, so generative image models, right? Then level 4, Virtuoso, better than 99% of skilled adults. And they have Deep Blue and AlphaGo. AlphaGo will beat 99% of skilled adults. It beat Lee Sedol, the world champion Go player, 5-0, I believe. But I guess it's still not as insanely good as, the chess playing AI, right? And of course, superhuman just completely better than 100% of humans. Currently, how the world is, we believe we're kind of here. We're in this emerging AGI. And when most people talk about AGI, like when will AGI get here? I feel like they're probably talking something like competent AGI or expert AGI. So either it beats the bottom half of adults, of skilled adults, or perhaps 90% of skilled adults. At some point, Sam Altman said something about, future AI models being better than the median human, I think he said. Basically, competent AGI. Let's take our definition of AGI to be somewhere between level 2 and level 3. So it's either better than half of the people or better than 90% of the people or somewhere in between, whatever. Now ask yourself this, could OpenAI have something behind closed doors that is at least as good as half of skilled adults? So it writes, it does taxes, it checks your spelling, it can produce images and videos and product packaging and write marketing copy. It can use Excel and Word, it can browse the web. Like all the tasks that your office workers can do, like it's as good as half of them. Is it conceivable that OpenAI has this? Well, if they trained GPT-4 in July 2022 and had a bunch of discoveries since, and by the way, GPT-4 is still one of the best models. I mean, now it has competition, has legitimate competition. And I think Gemini 1.5 will actually beat it in in certain areas at least. So GPT-4 isn't the undisputed champion anymore, but it's not by any stretch obsolete or out of date or anything like that. So if that's the model that we're using that's at the top of the leaderboards and it's trained in July 2022, then it's important to understand that we're seeing is like light from very distant galaxies. Whatever we're seeing happened a long, long time ago. So going back to this, if we were looking at something like this, and the question was, how likely do you think that OpenAI has a level 2 competent AGI as what they call basement AGI? In other words, it exists, but it's behind closed doors. It's not accessible by the world, right? It's in somebody's basement. And let's assume it doesn't have to be economically viable, meaning that, for example, ChatGPT, it costs cheap enough to run to where, they can have a model for free. They can have a paid model. Perplexity has a free version and has a paid version. So the point is they got the cost down to where it could be released to the public, the whole world can use it, etc. Forget that for a second. From certain papers that we read on this channel, it seems like spending more compute on inference, sort of letting the computer think really hard about the answer, that improves its ability to answer that question. It almost replicates the abilities of a more advanced AI. So for example, if we asked GPT-4 a question, and let's say normally it costs 10 cents in compute cost to answer that question. What if we allowed it to spend $10 million of compute to answer that question? What would happen? Well, it seems like from some of the research that we've seen, it seems like that would be a simulation of how, for example, GPT-5 would answer that question. Just by increasing the compute, we're able to see how that model would behave at a much more advanced level. In fact, I believe Ilya Sutskever talked about that a little bit because he said it would basically, this sort of approach would allow him to, do some safety testing on next generation models to make sure that, everything's cool before we actually train that model, before we unleash it. We can kind of simulate how it would behave by just spending much, much more resources on it, answering any given question. Sort of, it's a way to approximate it, to kind of glimpse into the future almost. So my question is, knowing that we know about where OpenAI is, what we see versus what they most likely have behind closed doors, and also, not taking how much stuff costs into account. So let's assume they just have, unlimited access to compute. Is it possible that they have a competent AGI, something that's as good as 50% of skilled adults? What odds would you give that? To me, that seems very likely, very possible at least. Maybe better than 50-50. So in terms of answering the question, when will we have AGI? Whoops, did you miss it? Because if OpenAI had GPT-4 in July 2022, it has been compounding since, because keep in mind, the GPUs have improved drastically since then. The funding has improved, the technology, the research, everything has improved. And, assuming they've been compounding this whole time, dropping more and more grains of rice on the board, and we're well into that second half of the chessboard, well, maybe the thing is already here. The AGI is here. It's just not distributed yet. It's just not released yet. And that's why Sam Altman talks about, staggering the release, releasing it incrementally, not all at once. Some of the other OpenAI employees have also mentioned the same thing. They want to give people a preview of what's coming to let everybody kind of adjust and figure out how they're going to go about it. Things are about to get nutty. Exactly what this means is kind of hard to predict. Like I always say, I'm fairly optimistic about this whole AGI thing in the long term. It will be awesome for humanity in the long term. But in the short term, it might get bumpy. We might have to reconsider some things, change how things function. We have to learn to think from first principles. Whatever inertia and momentum that humanity has achieved, we might have to say, wait, rethink how all of this works if AGI exists. How do we think about jobs, money, the economy? How do we think about the things that we see in video and images and text? How do we think about human achievement and a sense of self-worth? What's our purpose in life if machines can do most things better? I know that scares a lot of people. I see a lot of people that are very smart, very talented, that are scared because I guess they believe that some of that advantage that they have over other people, that it will get erased. This is where a lot of artists seem to be very concerned. If you've seen some of the things that the artist community is saying about AI, they're very, very hostile towards it. Not everybody, I'm generalizing, but at least some subsection of that community, anonymously on Twitter, let's just say they really don't like that. They don't like it. They want it to be made illegal. And they're saying that no good will come of it. I think it was late 2019, I stumbled on this Reddit forum that was talking about a virus that was happening somewhere on the other side of the world. It was making people sick and it was spreading fast. At that time, it was just one city in a very populous country. Some people on the forum were concerned because of how rapidly it was spreading. That exponential growth, that compounding was much faster than we've seen before. And of course, people were concerned. I was a little bit concerned. I had no idea how that whole situation would end because nobody was yet talking about it. It wasn't on the news. It wasn't talked by people. We didn't even have a name for it at the time. People were just calling it by the city where it originated. I discussed it with a friend of mine, kind of let him know what I was seeing. And we both took some actions to, prepare for it. I stocked up on some medical supplies, hand sanitizer, and such. I bought several of those huge hand sanitizer things from Costco. I think I still have them to this day. Now, somehow that wasn't the thing that we ran out of. The thing that everyone ran out of was toilet paper. The correct answer was toilet paper. And my friend, he shorted the living bejesus out of airline and cruise stocks. My friend, in the meantime, made tons of money shorting various travel, airplanes, and cruise stocks. And then at the bottom, he poured all his money into various stocks that he believed would be affected by the massive money printing that was happening. So the question is, with the coming of AGI, however you describe that, with this massive compounding force that is building up and is about to hit the world, and no one really knows how and what it will affect, how do you navigate those currents? How do you protect yourself from risks? How do you take advantage of the upsides? And I'm not just talking money, just in general, how do you navigate this new world we're about to be thrust into? Well, we can't possibly cover that today, but in one of my next videos, we're going to dig up a piece written a long time ago, maybe like early 2023, about the 2 or 3 things that will actually matter in a post-AGI society. If you enjoyed this, please hit thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave me a comment. I try to read as many of them as possible. It's hard to read all of them, but I try. And finally, I know you are probably dying to hear the rest of the podcast by the 2 golden retrievers podcasting on top of a mountain. So to close out this video, here's the full 2-hour-long podcast. I'm kidding. Bye.